eventually you get to a point where you're not going to be able to beat the market consistently. So don't even kid yourself. Playing that stock picking game's not for really anyone, and just invest in the index.
In just a few short years, James Wrigley has blown up as an authority on personal finance for the everyday Aussie. He swapped a pinstripe suit for a t-shirt on your social feeds every day to give you that no-nonsense clarity on your money issues. He's a financial advisor and part owner in Melbourne's First Financial, and James joins me in the studio today to give you 5 audiobook recommendations to help you be smarter with your money this year.
My name is James Wrigley, and I'm here to give you my 5 must-listen audiobooks on personal finance for 2025. Now, John, remember what we're talking about today is not financial advice. If you do need some help from a professional financial advisor, please seek that.
So I keep saying that every year is going to be the year where I do a personal budget. And by January 3rd, that's just out the window. Are you going to make me feel bad with this first recommendation?
No, John, you don't have to do a budget, but you do have to read The Barefoot Investor by Pape.
So that's your first recommendation. But I would argue that, and many would argue that it's potentially outdated. Why have you chosen it as your first rec?
It's the building blocks. So he goes through a series of exercises and different things that you need to go through to get the building blocks in order. You mentioned the budget. He even talks about, and I personally hate doing a budget, but he talks about using a series of bank accounts, giving that money a purpose. You're then much more likely to follow that purpose, and then it all just works for you from there.
Then is it logical that your second rec seems a little bit more ambitious? What is it, and why did you choose that one?
The next book, Millionaire by Nash, it's only been out for a few months now, but it takes your kind of money journey to another level. So it's talking about a whole lot more advanced strategies using debt, buying investment properties, all of these kind of things. But I really love how Ben's gamified the different stages that you go through. So he's got a whole worksheet that's there, that's part of the audiobook that you can listen to and download. That where you work through the different stages and different things that you have to tick off before you can go to the next stage and the next stage and the next stage. He's made that a really interesting journey to follow.
And who is that book for, in your opinion?
So that book's aimed at high-income aspirational people. It's not for the average person. It's someone that wants to live a more than average lifestyle, and someone that isn't also hanging around to work in the workforce until they're 65 years old. They want to be retired early, they want to have a decent amount of money behind them and go and live an amazing life.
So I feel like we're on a journey here and that we're sort of moving through the life stages. What's the next stage and what book is it?
We are. The next book's Retirement Made Simple by Noel Whittaker. What he articulates really well is like where do you need to get to? So you'll be a particular age, earning a particular income, and you've got a mortgage and you've got some money in super and so forth. But he has a really simple way of articulating how do you get from where you are today to where you need to get to. Lots of people don't know where they need to get to, so they don't know when they've arrived. But he does a lot, and it's really simple, but he does a lot through the book. And then he has a lot of calculators that he references to help you get to that point. It really gives you that guidance.
Right, so you set your waypoints earlier and then he helps map you there.
That's it. And so you can start that book, as much as it says Retirement Made Simple, you can actually be starting to implement a lot of the things that he talks about in that book when you're in your 40s, for example. You don't have to be knocking on the door of retirement. Arguably, that's probably too late.
I was going to say, how early do you think you have to start thinking about retirement?
So for all of these books, and Noel's in particular, the earlier you start, the better. The best time to have done something about all of this was yesterday, listening to one of these books.
Investing, whatever it might be.
Implementing some of the things that they recommend. The best time to have done any of that was actually yesterday. Now, the next best time's today. But they've all got their different paths, and there's kind of the building blocks to heading towards retirement if you listen to all of them one after another. So Simran does a great job, and like I work in financial advice, but she does a great job of breaking down the barriers to understanding some of the things that you need to actually get started investing in the first place. Like a lot of people just get stuck on the jargon and it's all too scary. I don't know what they're talking about. I'm not going to do anything. And she talks about in the book about the kind of investing world being male dominated, and certainly financial advice is male dominated. But then she talks about a lot of the basics and breaking it down, her own journey. And then what's really interesting through the book is, I think it's at the end of each chapter, but certainly quite regularly through the book, she has like readers and participants in her podcast have put in their own story, and it says, I'm whatever the person's name is, and I'm a nurse and I earn $65,000 a year and I started and I bought this share and I bought this share and I bought this share. It makes it seem like anyone can do it. It's not this kind of mythical thing that it's really complicated. That's anyone earning any amount of money at any stage of life can actually get started investing. She does an incredible job of getting you on that journey. And I wanted to just keep listening and listening and listening, because there's certain things that I talk about on a day-to-day basis in my job, but she does such a great job of simplifying it that I'm listening to her and saying, actually, I'm going to explain that thing that way to the next time that I'm trying to explain it to someone. It's incredible.
Now, one final audiobook that you have to listen to in 2025, according to James himself, is a book by Burton Malkiel. What is it?
And it's called A Random Walk Down Wall Street.
It sounds interestingly chaotic, or that it's trying to imply that the markets are so and that you can't do much about it.
Yeah, it's interesting you use the word chaotic. So he goes through quite an elaborate way of explaining that eventually you get to a point where you're not going to be able to beat the market consistently. And so don't even kid yourself. Playing that stock picking game's not for really anyone, and just invest in the index.
Unlike the other books, and I feel like we're on a bit of a journey here today, working up to a certain level of proficiency, is there some theory involved in this one? There
is. So this last one, A Random Walk Down Wall Street, there's a lot of economic theory and principles that if anyone studied finance or economics at university, a lot of it you'll recognise. So it's a heavy book. It's a heavy audio book. It's not for the beginners, I wouldn't say. There's a lot of economic theory, as I said, in there, but the conclusion's the same.
Before we wrap up, though, I feel like everything we've said today has come back to, if you're not doing it yesterday, you're too late.
Yep.
You're 40 years old. I'm 30. What would you tell me that you wish you'd done at 30?
Implement the bucket strategy that they talk about in the Barefoot Investor, and then start to do some of the investing that they talk about in Girls That Invest. When I was 20-something and in my early 20s and mid-20s, finished uni and got a job, I had all my money just going into one bank account. I'd blow it on holidays and clothes and stuff, and the balance never grew. The difference was I wasn't splitting it out into different bank accounts, having some spending money, having some saving money, having some investing money, and all of these books talk about implementing that kind of strategy. I didn't know it back then. I do it now as a 40-year-old, and it's amazing. I just wish I did it when I was 20 years old.
James, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. You can catch any of these recs on Audible. You know the drill. Hit the link in bio or the deeds in the description for more.